Welcome back to Dungeon Master's Corner. Today, we're doing things a little differently. Instead of focusing on an event from our games, we're going to focus on an important NPC. Welcome to another episode, a special episode of Dungeon Master's Corner, where we are trying out a new series we've talked about a bit in the past. This is what we like to call a NPC Spotlight. This is where we take a step back and instead of talking about an event or story that happened in one of our games, we look at one of the NPCs that we built and developed and introduced and was either absolutely beloved or reviled by the players.
Yeah, that's a good way to explain them, yeah.
So feel free to take these characters that we talk about, insert them into your own game, and use them how you see fit, but we're going to tell you how we use them. Today we are looking at one of my creations, one that has taken on a form completely different than what he was originally meant to be, because of some people present in this room.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Uh-huh. I would like to return to the word Shanghai so the audience knows where we're going with this. Now, this character wasn't actually shanghaied, but the shift happened because of it. Today we are talking about a character called Simon Meeker. Now, we don't talk about this particular game very often because of a secret project I've been working on with it where you will get a much more in-depth look at what happened in the game. But considering how different Simon became, I am very open to sharing more about him. Simon exists in our modern world. This entire campaign takes place in the modern world. And all the characters that you played, except for one notable difference, were from a magical world. It's like Isekai, but backwards. And they came into this world and started meeting new people, and they eventually, as the game took place in Boston, went to Boston College and met with a professor. Now, I had a whole plan with this professor that also took a very sharp turn. But one of the students they were going to meet was Simon Meeker, a wheelchair-bound boy, probably about 20-ish years old, paraplegic, who already had weak legs as a child, but had gotten into an accident and lost complete feeling in them. Simon was going to be studying the paranormal, and it was going to lead everyone down a potential path to study hauntings and ghosts and other paranormal experiences that were happening throughout Boston. It would have given us a chance to look at a bunch of haunted locations, ghost towns. Actually, I think...
Which we did a little bit of, not as extensively as we would have.
Right.
Because there was a ghost sighting in the park that we looked into.
And that was supposed to link you back through church and them, and it was all going to come together, but the interest in Simon wasn't there. The interest in Arbuckle, the professor, wasn't quite there. The focus was going to other places, and a good DM knows, well, if this is not the storyline that's attracting them, I'm going to follow the storyline they want to follow. But I didn't want to get rid of these characters. I liked them too much. And just kind of let them go by the wayside felt like a waste. So in order to kind of get them back into the story, we needed someone a little more mobile. And that's where Simon got a brother. And this is where the Shanghai happened. His brother Damien was...
I mean, we could talk about Damien in a whole other episode. This is for Simon.
Right. This is for Simon. But what I was going to say is Damien was my way of linking you back to Simon. The brothers are both artificers. Damien was... to be fair, the artificer wasn't completely out at that time, so I think he was originally a fighter, and Simon was using a wizard stat block when I first made him, but no spells, just the skills and intelligence, so I could have a character sheet. But then they were reworked as artificers. And Simon's... Where Damien's focus was on machines, mechanical stuff... I'm trying to remember the name of that type of artificer. Not an armor, it's the...
Artillerist?
I think it was the one who has the... I think it was Battlesmith, because that's the one that you can build yourself a little companion.
I mean, Artillerist and Battlesmith both have companions to them.
I mean the one that you build like a familiar, like a bear. You build a mechanical bear.
The Defender? Yeah, that would be the Steel Defender, so that would be Battlesmith.
Right, so that's what I based Damien off of later on. But there was no real artificer for Simon. So I think I made him an artillerist, but I didn't really use much of the skills. Because Simon was something special in this world. He was a hacker. He was the man in the chair, literally, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But Simon was sarcasm incarnate, constantly high on caffeine, not taking care of himself well, but always able to find information or scrub information that needed finding or scrubbing, saving your butts on more than one occasion.
Oh, so many times.
Also, saving me the problem of having the entire police department looking for magical freaks of nature. So...
Oh, so true.
Yeah, Simon was my way of keeping the world ignorant of you, while at the same time, a few people got to find out. He was my magical hex of Harry Dresden, but in this world. He'd take out the cameras so they wouldn't record you. He'd scrub footage. He'd take down videos that were posted online, except when Andrew's monk got into fighting pits, UFC fights. Those he bet on.
I mean, yeah, he knew.
This is true. He knew how he could take in the cash, but the thing is, he didn't even need to. Simon's kind of my little Robin Hood in this world, white collar crime. He goes in there and he just steals money from billionaires. The thing we all liberates. He liberates monies from billionaires. He liberates money from billionaires.
But they don't even notice.
Right. I mean, when you're making several billion a day or several million a day, when are you going to notice a couple 100,000 slipping through the cracks? It's kind of like the plot to Office Space. But Simon, I just didn't want to let him go. That was the thing. I just didn't want to let him go. And where he was supposed to be like the wheelchair-bound Ghostbuster, which if you watch the 90s cartoons... There was the new Ghostbusters or something like that was the name of the show. There was a Ghostbuster in a wheelchair. He was supposed to be a ghost hunter in a wheelchair. That was going to be the whole thing with him. And he turned into a hacker, and a lot happened with him. I don't want to spoil, but a lot happened with him that developed him way more than just some snarky ghost hunter was going to be. And I have to say, like, as much as I love Damien wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Simon.
Yeah. Simon is very beloved, too. I hope you know that.
Oh, I know. Well, to be fair, both of your characters are stucking both of the brothers, so...
I was gonna say, I don't know if Zoe and Simon are there yet.
Not yet, but I think that was the plan. To be fair, Simon is... one of my favorite things about him is he said... He was aromantic by choice, asexual by circumstance. So, like, because he couldn't move from the waist down, that's why he wasn't a sexually active individual. But I do like the fact that he was aromantic. Like, even if he does end up having a sexual relationship with someone, it's the kind of sexual relationship where at the end of sex you high-five and go back to video games. It's like, yeah, that was great, moving on.
Yeah. That actually sounds just like what they would do.
Yeah, the thing is, like, That's not how I can live my life. But I know that there are people out there who do, and I don't want to be like, oh, all sexual relationships turn into romantic ones or just one-night stands. It's sometimes sex is sex, and with him, that's how it would have been.
And that also helps give some representation, too.
Yeah.
We got an aromantic. Zoe, at least I had canon as a demisexual, so she actually has to, like, get to know a person before she can be involved in that, and they're best friends.
And have been for a very long time, as far as I think they for
met
a few
in
years,
Arbuckle's class. Yeah, I think.
I think that, yeah, that's because you built Zoe as your backup to Morgan.
Just in case.
Yeah, just in case. How many times does Morgan go down? And I don't mean in the sexual way we were just talking about.
I was gonna say that's what just popped into my head.
Yeah, it's not Piper we're talking about here.
More often than I'm comfortable with.
It's amazing, I find. These characters start off as one thing, become something completely different, and it actually reminds me, when I was teaching today, a student said something in Spanish that I cannot say because I don't speak Spanish. But it reminded me of something my grandfather said, which was, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. Simon did not survive first contact with the players. He became something completely different. And I'm happy for that. I am happy for what he is. Though, my god, the idea of going around with a snarky ghost hunter through the haunted areas of Boston, that is lost to you all forever, and shame. Shame.
I was gonna say, the snark's still there, and we can still go ghost hunting with him. He'll just,
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, at this point, all of you have much bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
And hopefully soon I can make an announcement on what that secret special project is. I'm getting a lot of the finer details ironed out. Unfortunately, fortunately, I've just moved. My studio is now in a different place. My home is in a different place. So it's been difficult getting content made in that time, but I'm hoping to be able to make an announcement in the next couple months to get that ball rolling. That's my hope. Can't make any promises, but that's my hope. I can practically hear the squeeze happening over there that you are muffling.
It's really hard to muffle them because I'm so excited.
Yeah. I know my friends well, dear listeners. I know them well. But unless there's anything you want to talk about with Simon, I think that's all I have on him at the moment, if I don't want to start getting into spoiler territory.
Yeah, there's a lot I would like to say, but it does tread into spoiler territory, and maybe we'll have to have a follow-up with him later.
I mean, it might take a couple years before we can do that.
That's fine. But we'll return. We have to return and be able to gush about them properly.
This is true.
The dialogue between, him and Damien is, some of the stuff that I just love going back to.
Oh, God.
The banter's so good.
But the problem is the banter is all me.
I know.
I have to be me yelling at me.
But it's still so good.
If you have a brother or a sibling of any kind, you know the arguments we're talking about. Imagine being the only person having that argument back and forth. It is. There are some days I'm sitting there yelling back and forth. I'm like, they came here to play the game. Why am I sitting here doing all the acting? They're like, we love this shit. I'm like, I'm glad you do, because
we need the popcorn when he gets into it. It's great.
Anyway. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Dungeon Master's Corner, and this most special of episodes, the NPC Spotlight. We hope to bring you a few more of these coming up, but until then, I have been Brian.
And I've been Nicole.
Thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to see you in our next episode. Bye!
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Dungeon Master's Corner. If you'd like to support us, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/reliablychaotic, since we don't have a hacker sugar daddy hooking us up with whatever we need. And no, we're not salty about it. You can also drop us a line on Twitter at Reliably Chaotic. We'd love to hear from you.